Now, this is Heiner Sigmund reporting for Cargoforwarder Global. I'm in Switzerland at Zurich Airport and talking to Peter Somaglia. He's head of IG Air Cargo Switzerland, the group of interest of the air cargo industry in Switzerland. Peter, you invited the industry to come here, to gather here at the airport. What reason for?
We organize, as the organization of air cargo in Switzerland, every 2 years an event. First of all, to get our people together, to get a networking event as well, but also, of course, to convey news and information about the air cargo industry, about logistics and about developments worldwide.
In your hand, you get a list, quite a thorough list containing 52 pages. There's demands, there's an analysis. How's air cargo doing here in Switzerland, and what are your demands?
Air cargo in Switzerland is doing quite well, not so much in tonnage, but in value. We have increased enormous in value in the last few years, and measured on the value, on its value, 43% of the export are flown by air, and if we take only overseas destinations, it's about 80% of the total. And we have summarized in this brochure here the air cargo policy as integral part of the general aviation policy of Switzerland, and want to make sure that air cargo in the future is also represented well in the respective government publications.
Air cargo hasn't had so far a leading role here in Switzerland. It was part of the aviation industry as such, but there was no much talk about the air cargo industry. So what do you demand from the politicians here?
I think one of the important things is that the politician, administration, but also the companies and the stakeholders in the whole air cargo industry or aviation industry have to realize that air cargo is a very important contribution to general aviation. And we can say that without air cargo, there is no long-haul flight which is flying profitable around the world. And that's why air cargo is one of the prime subjects for every aviation company and every airline all over the world.
So what should your government do to better the situation of the air cargo industry?
We have asked our government to improve the general conditions under which we can operate. For instance, we have a very rigid regulations about the airport slots. We have night bans on driving. We have weekend bans on driving for the road feeder services, for instance. We would like to have more open customs hours, for instance. We would like their support in e-government, for the electronic transmission of data, because air cargo still is very much in the past and still is missing the real push on the electronic side and the modernization of the processes.
So a lot of points on your agenda. I wish you well, and hopefully air cargo industry is going to have in future the role it demands and it should have here in Switzerland. Thanks, Peter, for joining us.
Thanks a lot, and